Hello everyone, Marstus Prater here, and welcome to the first episode of the United States Air Force, where I will be talking about the F-22 Raptor. The F-22 is a single-seat, all-weather air superiority stealth fighter with two engines that are equipped with 2D thrust vectoring nozzles that allows the thrusters to move up and down for superior maneuverability in both low and high Gs for much tighter tight turns compared to the majority of the 4th gen fighters, which does help in both offensive and defensive maneuvers. The nozzles equipped on the engines also help reduce the heat emissions from the thrust, which enables to hide from infrared sensors and make heat-seeking missiles harder to track you. It has an internal weapon bay that also helps reduce the RCS or radar cross-section in order to penetrate enemy air defenses on top of using specialized materials and paint, which all makes it harder for enemy planes to find and get a lock on you at BVR or beyond visual range. Now, this video I will be giving you the information about the development, production, specs, cost, and at the end I will give you my thoughts. I am mainly making this video to let everyone know about this plane and how long it is to become a pilot. So that way you can think for yourself whether it is a good idea or not to maintain and build them for years. The development of the F-22. In 1981, United States Air Force assigns the ATF, or Advanced Tactical Fighter Program, in order to make a more highly advanced next-gen fighter to replace the F-15 and the F-16 because of the emerging threat of the Soviet Union. Now, these threats they were talking about was mainly due to the fact of the growing advancement of the Soviet Union technologies, like their anti-air defenses and their capabilities. That was caused by the constant escalation of the West by several reasons. Like one reason is that we illegally fly in their airspace over and over again just to take pictures, so that the Western government can figure out where everything is and what the Soviets were planning. And also for test runs for bombing, because you can get much better views with planes with the pictures than the satellites. And if you don't believe me, there are a lot of information and documentaries on this. You can easily find just by simply looking it up and watching videos, like the SR-71 Blackbird. It is one of many, and we even have it in the Smithsonian Museum after its forced retirement in the United States. The other emerging threats of the Soviet Union was the advancement of its aviation, like the MiG-29, MiG-31 with its phased array radar, which the MiG-31 was the only plane to have that at the time, which allows the pilot to look down and shoot down. And then the last plane is the Su-27. The long 50-month development, demonstration, and validation, two planes were selected for the competition. The YF-22, which was built by Lockheed, Boeing, General Dynamics, and then the YF-23, which was developed by Northrop and McDonnell Douglas. On October 31st, 1986, the YF-22 won the contract, and then the next 10 years until 1996 was the testing and development of the plane. And since Lockheed was the winner, it will be building majority of it, testing and fixing any problems of the prototype. And with the help of Boeing, General Dynamics, Northrop, McDonnell Douglas, they were tasked to build the parts of the planes, like the electronics and hydraulics, while Pratt & Whitney and General Electric will be building the engine. Now, the image you're seeing is who makes outside of the plane, just to give you the general idea of what I was talking about. You have Lockheed in the yellow and orange, Boeing is the green, and Pratt & Whitney is the engines in blue. Now, for those who don't really know and ask why did the development took 10 years before production, it is primarily due to the constant problems it was running into and trying to fix as much of it before it was cleared for production. Production. The production phase started in 1994 at a Lockheed facility in Marietta, Georgia, but it was in a low-rate production for another 2 years for just to fix the smaller problems it was still having until 1996 when it finally went into full production. When it was in full production, 2 planes per month were being produced, which totaled about 24 planes a year. Originally, the contract signed by the government was supposed to be 750 planes, with a total cost of $44.3 billion for the whole contract. And then the price for the plane would have been around $59 million per plane. In 1990, thanks to Dick Cheney, who was the defense secretary at that time, passed a bill to reduce the planes to 648. Now, thankfully he did because the U.S. government started to decrease the funding to the DoD and increase the cost of composite materials, the alloys, and the paints that is used to make up the plane structure and such. Then the demand and cost of new technology that was coming out would jack the prices up immensely, which I will get into later on in the video. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, which further would decrease the funding for DoD even further, which reduced the plane's production down to 442. Now, to remind you, this plane didn't even start its production until 1992, so it was already reduced down by 308 planes. In 1997, a few years after production actually started, the number of planes was reduced even more due to the decrease in funding and the increased cost of the same reasons as earlier, to 339 planes. It happened again in 2003, which further reduced the number to 277. Now, the plane finally entered service in 2005 and ended its production in 2011. So that is the only 7 years of production with only 186 planes that was built. So that's 563 planes that didn't even get produced by the original contract. So in total, including the prototypes that was built, only 195 out of 750 planes were built, with a massive price tag because the price wasn't even close to the original. Now, because of pilot error or just something that went wrong with the plane or whatever the reason, which happens more often than you actually think, only 183 planes still exist today. But if you look it up on the internet, they only say 130 are actually combat ready, and around 30 of these planes are going to be retired. But right now, the availability of the plane is 10 to 20% lower due to the lack of spare parts, which does not surprise me at all, because it is the same for pretty much all the planes here in the United States. We're all struggling with the parts in the Air Force. And this plane and the F-35 requires far more maintenance than any other fourth gens out there. And not only that, the mechanics have to make their own parts from what I heard. And just to keep them operational. So less than 130 planes are actually combat ready at all times. The end cost of the plane. The cost of the contract ended up being a total of $67.3 billion, which is a total increase of $27 billion for the contract. And for the plane, when you do the math, it equals down to around $360 million per plane, which is a total increase of $301 million, which is a massive, that's a lot of money just to build one plane that's not even doing its job, and then it was made to do, and more than half of them are just sitting around collecting rust and dust because they can't get the parts and stuff. So right now, it is the most expensive fighter jet, not military plane, fighter jet. The most expensive military plane that has been built and still is in service is the B-2 Spirit bomber. Now, for the people who want to restart the production and the ones who think it should, well, Pentagon is the only one who can actually truly authorize that, which will not happen. It can, but it won't. It will cost too much money, and Pentagon doesn't want to spend that kind of money on a project that's already ended. Now, if Pentagon does reactivate the production, it's going to be extremely costly. And the program will cost around $17 billion from what I can find out. And that is just restarting the production lines and other stuff that needs to be done. I found on the internet it said it will cost around $227 million per plane. But when you add everything else at the beginning, it will be far more than that. And this is just when it first starts up, restarting the production lines and everything. Lockheed even stated that restarting a production line will cost $200 million alone. And not only that, you have to inspect and reprogram all the robots and retrain all the personnel on it, since it's been more than 10 years since it actually was produced. And a good amount of them probably won't remember how to assemble the plane anymore. Or they went into retirement, so you have to really retrain a lot of people on how to do it. Now, I know that we are still making parts for this plane, but that's just parts, alright? That's not building a brand new plane, it's not assembling it or anything. The current facilities are already repurposed for the F-35. So if you want to build this plane, you have to repurpose them again or build a brand new building and lines again. And the parts that are already being made are extremely limited. So it will actually cost even more to make those lines that makes the parts. And it could take months, even up to multiple years to build all that, get all the personnel, train them and everything. So it would be extremely costly and time that this plane does not have, and nor nearly does the United States. The F-22 has a service life of 8,000 hours, and after every 300 hours of flight time, it has to be grounded for a 3-week maintenance plan. The life cost of maintaining these planes is around $59 billion a year, from what I was able to find out. I saw from the Aerospace Forces magazine, while looking up for the maintenance, and they say it will cost around $9 billion just to make this plane last through the end of this decade. And that's just upgrading it. Now, for the people who do not know, this plane was banned by the United States for exports to any other country, even NATO countries. And if you're wondering why, it is because the United States government claims that it was afraid that other countries will steal the tech from the plane. Now, as of today, which is October 2024, look at the F-35, the newest United States stealth multi-role fighter that we are selling, and we are selling this plane to other NATO nations, which is funny because the United States is now contradicting themselves, because the F-35 has more technology in it than the F-22. So these other countries have the ability to steal our more advanced tech. Even other countries that are not friendly with us can do it. The cost per flight for the plane is $59,116. And the F-22 pilot makes $74,000 to $117,000 a plane. This is per year, and roughly $62.67 at United States dollars, depending on your rank. Now, in order to become a F-22 pilot, you have to reach a certain amount of hours flying in a single-engine plane, and some other reasons that you have to just to qualify from what I understand and heard. Now, I did try looking it up for a far better idea of what they have to do, but nobody gives a good detail on it at all. I even watched videos of pilots trying to talk about it. I can't find a good explanation of what to do. So, and I did watch one dude that gave a general idea how to become an actual pilot in the United States Air Force. So, um, now if you did meet the requirements, you have to go to a 8 to 9 month training program at the Joint Base Langley, Eustis, Virginia. So, in total of all the time it takes, I will give you a rundown. You have to go to college to get a degree, then basic training, then AIT, and then you have to go for the training program for the F-22. Now, what I'm about to say here is not to discourage people from joining and becoming a F-22 pilot. It's just to let you guys know what it takes just to become a pilot and an F-22 pilot. So, for the degree, it can be any one you want as long as you get a degree, which can take up to 1 to 3 years for like the basic ones, or depending on what you're going, or more depending on what you're going for, like medical or more advanced tech and stuff like that. That requires more. Um, and then you have to do BMT or basic military training, which is about it's about 7.5 weeks long. And then after that, you have to go to AIT or Airman in Training, which will take another 2.5 to 3.5 years for learning how to fly, just to fly the planes. The reason why it can take that long is depending on what's happening, because sometimes if the weather's really bad, you can't take off, even in the military planes. Even if they say it's all weather, certain conditions in the air can prevent you from leaving the ground. So, let's add it all up. Let's say around 3 years for college degree, then 7.5 weeks for basic, and then the AIT, which is 2.5 to 3.5 years. So you're already doing like over 7 to 8 years before you even get to the training program for the F-22, which is another 8 to 9 months on top of that. So it can go all the way up to maybe even 8 to 9 years by the time you are a stealth pilot. So it would take years just to train a pilot for the F-22 if you pass. The F-22 was supposed to have 3 variants. The F-22 Alpha, which is we all know and is a single-seat air superiority fighter. The F-22 Bravo, which is a 2-seater that was planned to have the same capabilities as the Alpha version, but was more for like training. One guy would be piloting, the other guy would do the weapon systems, that kind of type deal. And a naval variant that was still in a blueprint was going to have incorporated variable swept wings, just like the F-14 Tomcat. But due to the same reasons as not to fulfilling the contract, the Bravo variant was converted to the Alpha, and the naval variant was just shelved. Now, to me, this is interesting because I did not know about the 3 variants until I started doing this video and getting all the information I wanted to get out of it. Which explains why a lot of the planes, like the F-18 and some of the other gens for the Navy and Marines, never got replaced at all. And I know why the main need for the F-35 and why they're happily spending billions of dollars on it. The combat record. United States and other Western news agencies boast about the F-22 training record for having an excellent kill ratio of 108 kills of F-15s, F-16s, F-18s, and a modern MiG-29, with 0 death. Now, this plane has 0 air-to-air kills in actual combat. It has done some air-to-ground missions in Syria, and the only area target it did shoot down was a surveillance balloon, which the United States government claims it was from China, and it was over Anchorage, Alaska. The reason why the F-22 does not have any air-to-air kills is due to the diminished air combat from what the United States government claims. But it's primarily due to the fact that it actually has no actual competition from third world countries that we were fighting in when this plane finally came out. From what I can find, the F-22 has a 97% mission capability, and the average the United States government requires is at least 90% rate. And if you don't know what mission capability means, it is the chance of coming back to base with little to no problems. Pretty much, you're not crashing during any kind of training or combat missions or having any kind of problems. The F-22 did break a record of carrying a total of 28 missiles. The last record was 22, which cost the United States $14 million just to break the record. The specifications of the F-22. The F-22 has one crew. The length is 62 feet 1 inch, or 18.92 meters. The reach span is 44 feet 6 inches, or 13.56 meters. The height is 16 feet 8 inch, or 5.08 meters. The empty weight is 43,340 pounds, or 19,700 kilograms. The gross weight is 64,840 pounds, or 29,410 kilograms. The max weight is 83,500 pounds, or 38,000 kilograms. The fuel capacity is 18,000 pounds, or 8,200 kilograms. And this is the internal gas tanks. Or it will be up to 26,000 pounds, or 12,000 kilograms, for the two external 600-gallon tanks, or 2,270 liters. And these are droppable fuel tanks. The power plants are two Pratt & Whitney F119PW100 augmented turbofans with a total of 26,000 pounds of force, or 116 kilonewtons, with dry thrust. And with the afterburners on, it is 35,000 pounds of force, or 156 kilonewtons of thrust. The maximum speed is Mach 2.25, which is a total of 1,500 miles per hour, or 2,414 kilometers per hour. And this is at high altitude. At the sea level, it reaches a Mach 1.21 with a total of 921 miles an hour, or 1,482 kilometers per hour. At super cruise, it is a Mach 1.82, a total of 1,220 miles per hour, or 1,963 kilometers per hour, and this is at high altitude. The range is 1,800 miles, or 3,000 kilometers, or more with the external drop tanks. The combat range is 530 miles, or 850 kilometers. At Super Cruise flight, it can reach up to 679 miles, or 1,093 kilometers. At the ferry range, or flying with no to a minimal loadout, is 2,000 miles, or 3,220 kilometers. The surface ceiling is 65,000 feet, or 20,000 meters. The G limits are plus 9 Gs, or negative 3 Gs. Its thrust to rate ratio is 1.08 to 1.25. For the armaments, it has one 20mm M61 Alpha 2 Vulcan rotary cannon that carries 480 rounds, and it can fire up to 6,000 rounds per minute. The air-to-air weapon is a AIM 120CD ARAMS, or 120AB ARAMS. a AIM 9MX Signriders. For the air-to-ground are a 1,000 pound or 450 kilogram JDAMs, or a 250 pound bomb, or a 110 kilogram GPU 39 SDB, or a small diameter bomb. For the external hardpoints, it can carry AIM 120 ARAMs, AIM 9 Signriders, and the 2 droppable fuel tanks. For the avionics, it has one AN APG-77 or AN APG-77V ASA radar, which has a total range of 125 to 150 miles, or 201 to 241 kilometers. Or it can be more than 250 miles or 400 kilometers in a narrow beam operation. It has a AN AAR-56 missile launch detector, AN ALR-94 electronic warfare systems with a 250 mile or 460 kilometer range or more, with a radar warning receiver for integrated for the integrated CNI suite. It has a intra-flight data link, MIDS JTRS, Link 16, Identify Friend or Foe Mode 5, a embedded GPS INS, a TACON, half-quick Saturn, which is a ECM resistant fingerprint hopping system, a SINGARS, which is a single channel and airborne radio, a JTIDS, and a MGJ, if I can talk right now, MJU 3940 flares for infrared missiles. Now, this is going to be a long video already. So, if you're not, I know there's some people that do not like long videos, so if you're not interested in hearing my thoughts about this plane, you can leave at any time. This is no longer going to be a non-biased analysis. It's going to be my honest thoughts from here on out. And it's all going to be about what I have seen and found throughout the whole years that I know about this plane. And if you like this video so far, leave a like and share so other people can watch this, so they can get a good look and understanding of this plane without all that worthless bias that some people don't do because they do not give the information that you actually need or should know, like the cost. You should know everything about the cost. Should kind of know about the combat records and stuff like that. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on other equipment when they come out. And also leave a comment down below so I can read what you want to say. Now, for my thoughts. I am going to get this out of the way, and this will trigger people. And I do not care because it is my opinion. The F-22 is not the greatest plane in the world. And there are a lot of people who believe it is, just off of pure bias or from brainwashing, just from seeing not only the stats, but whatever the government news and certain content creators give you, and they will be ignoring the actual facts that actually bring down the value of this plane. Now, it does not mean that I think it's a complete trash and it needs to be destroyed or anything like that. It's just useless right now, especially for what it's mainly designed for, which is fighting the Soviet Union planes at BVR ranges, where it is mainly safe away from any close quarter fighting, and especially for how much it costs to build, maintain, and how fast modern tech is actually evolving, as it is supposed to be retired around 2030, which is about 6-7 years from now. It should be retiring. And they are trying to make it last another decade. So it's going to be very expensive just to keep this plane around even longer than it should. Now, the one reason is because of the very very little combat it actually has seen. It was doing nothing but very limited air-to-ground missions in Syria. So it has actual zero combat with a near or equal competitor in the air. Zero. It didn't even have air-to-air combat against even a not near or equal competitor, because it never participated in the earlier wars where some of the air combat actually existed. Um, Not even a war game did it came across a near or equal competitor. They were all fourth gen fighters from the United States Air Force, and the only plane that is a Soviet made was the MiG-29 that was designed to destroy. So, and this plane was heavily upgraded by the United States, that because it was a plane that we actually owned. So I would like to see a war game right now with the Russians, with the Russian planes like the Su-35, the Su-30s, the Su-57. I guarantee you will see a completely different scenario. How can you claim and say that it is one of the greatest when it never took on anything that it can actually kill? Kill it in at combat. And by near or equal competitor, I'm talking about planes like the Sukhoi series, like the Su-35S or the Su-57. A lot of people say this is one of the most maneuverable plane in the world, but that's not true from what I have seen from watching air shows on YouTube and such. Alright, here's some clips of the F-22 just doing small maneuvers. You can easily find this in every single F-22 video that you can find on YouTube. It's literally almost the same. Same maneuvers.
The world, we will show you its raw power and thrust vector maneuvering capability as it executes maneuvers that no other combat-ready fighter aircraft in the world can perform.
No idea what he's talking about, because here's a Su-57. I've seen Russian planes pull off far better maneuvers. You got that there. Sadly, there's not a lot for the Su-57. Probably because Russian commanders don't want them to do it. Here's a Su-30 or 33. I can't tell which one's which. I have a hard time just doing backflips like it's nothing. Here's a Su-35. Just look at that. I like to see the F-22 pull that off. There's another one of the Su-35. This right here is the 3D thrust vectoring, which allows it to pull off these crazy maneuvers. There's a MiG-29 with the 3D thrust vectoring doing backflips, a much older version than the F-22. I don't see the F-22 pulling that off. Here's another video of the Su-35. Don't see the F-22 do that, and doing a cartwheel still. You just don't see that being happening. So out of the F-22 and all the Sukhois, even the MiG-29 that's equipped with it, pretty sure out of the top 10, the F-22 is probably the top 8th or 7th place when it comes to maneuverability. So that dude has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to that being the most maneuverable, because it's nowhere near it. Another reason is that if it was such a great plane, we will have more than 187 planes built, and more than 150 in service, and then more than half of those will actually be combat ready at all times. But we don't. It is so much more worse than you will ever hear from any news, government. Like every once in a while, they might throw out like a little hints here and there, so you have to put it all together and just do a little digging. They are having so many problems with not only parts but also tools. From what I've seen and heard, the maintenance crew have to make even their own tools which does not help at all fixing these planes, because it's like adding duct tape upon duct tape and then using bubble gum trying to keep it all together kind of type deal, and it's just jury rigging them until they actually get the parts that they need, which can lead to the actual destruction or breaking down the plane, and even possibly the death of the pilot for no reason at all. We could easily make the parts, but we don't. I believe this plane needs to be retired immediately, actually. And the reason why is because it costs so much just to maintain these 150 planes we actually have left. And they are wasting $59 billion a year just to maintain them. And right now in 2024, the United States is what, like $35 trillion in debt and growing faster each and every single year? Because all we do is print money that has a zero value. Now we have half of what is like 70, 80 planes that are actually combat operational. So we are spending so much money on these planes for around 10 years of production. Now, and they are just sitting around collecting rust and dust. For what? Just claiming that we have that many as a deterrent or whatever reason. And like I said, the $9 billion is probably for the upgrades, just to make them last past their original retirement date. So if we retire them now, we not only save the $9 billion for upgrades, but $59 billion each year for the next decade if they actually do go through it. And we can easily put that into something else. So yes, I would love to see this plane retired immediately, as they will continue being useless until a major war breaks out with Russia and China, only to see them fall out of the sky afterwards because they can't be properly maintained, and they will be getting shot out of the sky. For the surveillance balloon that did shoot down, I want you guys to think long and hard and ask why the F-22 was used and not something far more cheaper to send out, like the F-18 or the F-16, just to shoot it down. Now, this plane costs what? $60,000. It was like $59,000, but let's just say around $60,000 just to take off, and then you add another $400,000 to $500,000 to shoot the missile. I am pretty sure the other planes would have been much cheaper to send out to shoot down that plane. Just a little, not a whole lot. Probably like a couple $1,000s maybe, at most. Not only that, if we were such a highly advanced country that nobody else is, the United States government and the news likes to claim that we are, then why didn't we hack the damn balloon and have it land somewhere? That would have been so much more cheaper to do than waste over $400,000 to $500,000, only to not find out what it actually is and what kind of pictures it actually took to prove it was China doing this instead of claiming it did and knocking it out of the sky for no reason. And just remind you guys, the more advanced you get, the more easier it is to hack it once you know how to do it and you have the proper facilities and equipment to do it. You can hack it into anything. Even the Pentagon can get hacked. The FBI can hack. The CIA get hacked like almost every year. You can hack this stuff. I can guarantee you that much. Now, there are a lot of people who wants to restart the production, but there are people in the government that also don't, which is good. But they gives like stupid reasons all the time. Like, by the time it enters service, it was because the airframe is outdated, the software is hard to update, or whatever stupid ass reason they like to give. When you make blueprints for any equipment for the military, even for like regular vehicles for civilian use, you must always plan to make them upgradable and to last to a certain date. By the time it hits that date, it needs to be retired and replaced by something else. Otherwise, it will truly be outdated by then. For like the software is being hard to update, that's just stupid. That's no own fault for making that if that's true. Because technically the software should be easy to update because that's the purpose of it. Now, a lot of people are just saying they want it back on. It's probably because they don't make a lot of money off of it for the military industry. Just saying. Um, since it takes years to train pilots for both the regular and stealth planes, we will not be able to keep up with training if a major war breaks out with Russia or China. Not only that, the United States military is already having a major manpower shortage. They're even saying it they do. Because of the lack of volunteers coming up to join. And this is for all the branches, the Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force. So if a major war happens, which will at this rate, because the government wants an escalation with a lot of people, especially the countries that will destroy this nation with ease, with just like sending a few nuclear warheads and done, it will be a forced conscription because a lot of people don't want to join, and majority of the current military forces will be killed within a year or two of full-scale warfare, which will lead to a decrease of performance and loyalty because majority of the population doesn't want a war, surprisingly, surprisingly for the government and military. And they also don't want to be in the military and should not be in, which you can thank the leadership for it. Both the military and the United States, a lot of people don't want to do it because of the leadership. It's usually how it goes sometimes. I used to serve in the military. I left because the leadership, it was one of the many reasons, was because of the leadership was useless. And I saw it, and I saw where it was leading. Now, let's say if the military reduces the training time, then you will end up having the same results. You will have a decrease in performance, which leads to pilots dying or destroying and breaking the planes because they're not being properly trained, which leads to losing planes. That easy costs over hundreds of millions of dollars just to keep up with the fighting. Even the F-16s and F-18s that don't even cost that much, but if you keep losing them, it will be open to hundreds of millions. Let's say we do go to war with a major nation. Pilots will not be able to be able to properly handle the plane like they're supposed to, especially at high Gs. When it comes to G forces, the average person can only handle 4 to 6 Gs before passing out. Some can handle a bit more just because it's just sheer tolerance. Some people can handle more, some people can't. So when you see anything about flight simulators for training pilots and they're saying they get better at flying the planes, that's only because of muscle memory, when they will build the knowledge of where everything is and how they actually operate. And they don't have to worry about breaking the actual equipment in the plane or destroying it, because that can happen. Because you're messing around and you end up breaking the program, you end up breaking the plane. But it does not help with the handling of the Gs that you will be experiencing. Flight simulation cannot replicate the Gs, the feeling of having the multiple times of weight pulling you down into your seat. The feeling of flying around with your engines dragging when you do maneuvers, because your engines are much heavier than most of the plane. That's where a majority of your plate comes in, your weight comes in, if you're not carrying a full load. And also, actually, how it feels when you're flying with a full combat load. It's entirely different with how much resistance you get from flying. Simulations can only replicate so much. Thank you for watching. This is already a very long video. I'm trying to keep it less than an hour. And if you think this video was educational and it made you think nice and hard about this plane, whether you think this plane is still one of the greatest the United States has ever built for whatever reason, that's yours. Me personally, I believe it's a complete waste of money, and that money could be put into something far better, like putting it back into the economy in order to help improve and fix it like we're supposed to. And not spending it on other countries that don't need it, like the Ukraine war, which they already lost this war well before it even started, that's obvious. Or something even more stupid, like gender studies in Pakistan. I remember seeing that somewhere a long time ago. Like, those people give a shit about it. Because I sure as hell don't, and I know those people don't. Totally different viewpoint than the United States. So if you like this video, please hit that like button and share it with other people so they can watch it and hopefully get a good idea of how this plane is. And if you want to watch more videos that I will be putting out much later on, please subscribe to my channel and leave a comment below to let me know what you think of the plane or video, whether you like it or not. Thank you for watching.